Hey everybody, this is Michelle.
And this is Julie.
Welcome to A Blonde, a Brunette, and a Mic podcast. What is our podcast all about, you ask?
Well, we're two 50-something women with life experience and, plenty to say.
Which is exactly what we're going to do right now.
Hey, Shelly.
Hey, Jules. How are you over there?
On the couch.
I am fantastic. I'm just kind of kicked back. I got my feet up. I got a Stella.
She's drinking a beer.
I got a Stella between my legs.
It's one of the long necks. It's sticking straight up, though. It might have a little boner.
A Stella Artois.
Yeah, it's bougie beer.
Yeah.
I like it because it's lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hey, we've had a busy week.
Have we?
Well, we know it's going to be going into the holidays.
Well, there's that.
You don't know that you had a busy week?
I mean,
remember you worked from home all week?
The week was busy. And yes, we are headed into the week of Thanksgiving, which I can't even believe it because I'm pretty sure we just had Easter.
It's so cliche. We actually did an episode on how time flies,
right.
But it is true. I mean, I'm
true.
really noticing it.
Time flies.
I'm like, gosh, it's already, November and we're getting into, and it's only 4 weeks from November, from Thanksgiving to Christmas.
Yeah.
I have a friend, the girl that does my hair. She, she literally has decorations for every single holiday to the point where you're going, wow. Where do you store all this stuff?
I don't do it. I know I don't do at Christmas. That's the only one I decorate for.
Well, her whole studio, everything where her studio is set up, and it is decked to the nines.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I literally will maybe get something up on the mantle and I'll get a tree up and I'm done.
You're better than me. You got Thanksgiving stuff on your door, on your step, and on your mantle here.
But I've tailored this down over the years to be. Literally, I would wrap the pictures that were hanging on the walls. The only leaves I have in my
place are the ones that get dragged in on my shoes.
Well, they're not real leaves. Are you planning on doing like a dinner thingy or anything for Thanksgiving?
It's kind of up in the air.
Yeah.
I would like to travel across the pass and go be with my mom and some other family members over there. And I actually think that's what I'm planning on. So we're just going to hope for that.
You're not getting new tires until after that. And
and my tires, they're not crap or anything, and they'll be fine. It'll be fine.
You have all-wheel drive.
I do have all-wheel drive. My tires have like 65,000 miles on them, so I'm due.
That's a lot of miles on tires.
I know. They've been great tires.
And she doesn't have chains. I asked her about this and she doesn't have chains.
I have driven over the pass in the snow when I lived in Spokane 3 years ago. Plenty of snow. I didn't need chains. Although I have heard, and I don't know, maybe you can validate this, that you can go buy chains at Les Schwab. Mm-hmm. And if you don't use them, you can just bring them back.
You probably could get them at Walmart. I mean, you can get them anywhere, right?
Well, probably.
Maybe you should put them in your trunk.
I mean,
just saying. I mean, just in case.
I wouldn't even know how to put them on.
Well, then she's going to bat her little eyelashes and some trucker is going to come by and see her little blonde head and go, oh, let me help her.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to put them on.
The damsel in distress.
So, yeah. Is that being toxically feminine?
It kind of is, but... Honestly, I'm okay with it because it's cold.
There are those moments.
There's times when it's okay to be toxically feminine.
Okay.
Like when you're camping, because someone's got to do everything for you.
Oh,
and there has to be.
Why are we camping?
Well, because you want to go along with and be supportive.
I stayed in a treehouse.
Yes, you did.
Speaking of camping, it was kind of that.
Was it like glamping? Was it cold?
Mm-hmm. No, it wasn't cold. So it was a very cool treehouse though. And it's only 200 square feet. You literally walk in. It's this little house that was built between these 3 giant trees.
How far off the ground?
I don't know. It's
can you
a ways
give me a ballpark?
I really don't. I have no clue.
As tall as you?
Oh, no. It's like up there, but how you get to it, it's not like you have to climb a ladder to get up to it or anything like that. It's the grounds around it are beautiful. There's fire pits and barbecues. There's, the grounds
It sounds
lovely.
like a really, really fun place.
Yeah. So it was very very cool. If you have the chance to experience something like that, I would highly recommend it.
It's over in Woodinville. You can PM Michelle. She'll give you the info. It was an Airbnb.
Yeah, it was an Airbnb closer to Redmond. But yeah, so that was a fun experience. Sorry, I totally interrupted. But yeah, being toxically feminine and needing help camping is where you were talking about. And it made me think of the treehouse. So
that's just me being toxically feminine.
Yeah.
And I mean, I will just tell you, it's like, I'll go. I like sitting around the campfire. I like doing all that, but I don't want to be sleeping where bugs are, and I don't want to be on the ground.
I mean, me neither. But
there has to be a bathroom. I'm not going to go to the bathroom in the bushes. I'm just not doing that, and I need to have a place for a shower.
But will you?
Yes.
No. Will you like go to the bathroom outside somewhere if you have to?
I mean, like if I was stranded up in the mountains or something,
like when you're on a long car trip, have you ever like pulled over and just like, really?
No. No. Michelle,
that's
the
so
last
funny.
time I peed in the bushes, I think I was a freshman in high school, and I'd probably been drinking.
Okay. Well, I don't think it's that
with
uncommon.
My crazy friends.
Just so you know, it's like, yeah.
Well, I was actually downtown going to an event at the Key, walking by. This is a couple weeks ago, walking by, and there's a guy. He was going to the event. I'm like thinking he's a homeless guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's peeing he's like right on the street, peeing right next to the
I was with you. It's when we went to Usher.
Yeah, that's when we went to Usher.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I almost stopped and went, really? Do you need something to wipe with? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know. That was, I mean, there's a time and a place, but I mean, I have.
What if you have to poop?
Well, I've never done that.
Okay.
But, peeing is a different thing. That is a different thing.
But for us.
But I'm just saying, you just like lean up against the side of your car and, spread your legs and you're good.
It gets everything on. Wouldn't that get on your car?
No, you're sitting. It's like you're sitting.
You're like doing a wall sit.
You're just like sitting, but there's no toilet beneath you. And you just like, kind of
like doing a squat.
Yeah. And it's not like you have to like run off into the bushes or anything.
Oh, you could do like a sumo squat while you're... sumo squat, while you're taking a leak.
I mean, let's
Is that
be
what
real
it's called?
here.
Do girls take a leak?
I don't know.
I think only guys take a leak. I don't know. Girls take a leak too, I suppose. But dripping dry is not an option. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't have to be. No,
because it's like you just shake it like this.
Shake it. Don't break it. Took your mama 9 months to make it.
And guys just take their wiener and go blah, 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 and shake it off, and they're done.
Oh, my goodness.
I remember when Jared was little, it's like, of course, or was it Jared or Andrew? I never had a little boy. It must have been Andrew. So, and he must have been like 3 learning he was learning how to pee or whatever. So he must be younger. And I gave him some toilet paper. He just kind of looked at me like, what are you doing? Like he figured it out before then.
Yeah.
And maybe dad needs to teach you how to pee, not mom, Anyway, so that's all that's really been going on around here. But the car. So we did do the car. I got a new car.
Oh yes, you did get a new car. I
forgot to tell you about that. That has been pretty sweet. So I used to have this small, really cute.
We won't talk about the fact that you already misplaced your keys one time.
Okay, we're just going to establish that I was putting things in the back of the car I was organizing, and they were in my pocket.
Yeah, it's all good.
But I only have one of those fobby things, and so I had to order another fob, and so I'm not going to get it till next week. So I was a little panicked.
But it is a silver, sweet ride.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah,
and it's bigger, so I can put a lot more stuff in it
as you need to.
Yeah. So and it has 4-wheel drive. Because it's an SUV.
Yep.
So I'm not going to be afraid. The other car I couldn't even drive.
Yeah.
When it was slippery or wet or whatever outside, I wouldn't even try. This one I might try, but I don't want to like run into anything, so I might not.
It's still kind of a mental thing. Even when you got 4-wheel drive, when I first got my car, I'd never had all-wheel drive. I remember the first real snow we got. Isaac's like, "Hey, Mom, you want to feel like taking your car out for a spin? See how it does in the snow?" And I really didn't want to, because you just don't know.
So you have to go to a parking lot for that.
But it was fantastic in that snow.
Did he twirl around in
I drove it
in the parking lot, like twirl around?
We were just in the side streets though, and yeah, it was fantastic. I was surprised. So it makes you feel good.
I'm the white knuckle driver. It will not matter.
Yeah.
I don't like that stuff. I get really anxious about.
I do too. I do too.
So,
But
okay. So we ran across this TikTok video that we wanted to just touch on.
yeah.
And I'll let Michelle, because she explained it really well when we were talking about it earlier.
Well, Julie is the one actually that found this, and she sent it to me, and she asked me for my thoughts, and I was like, I think this guy I said could be a good topic to talk about, but I think this guy honestly is a dick.
Mm-hmm.
So let me tell you why.
Set the stage.
Yeah, no, he was talking about, so it's this dad who is obviously leans to the left, definitely a Democrat, liberal, and he's got two sons, and 20 years old and 23, something like that. So one's still in college, one's out of college, still living at home though. And he was talking about how they had been out to dinner and decides to ask the boys who they voted for. So obviously he didn't know to this point. Election's over. And he asks his youngest son, so tell me, who did you vote for?
Assuming that he was going to say, duh.
Sure.
Know.
And he said he voted for Trump. And so then the dad asked the older one who he voted for. Well, he voted for Trump too, right? So this dad just can't even believe what he's hearing,
mm-hmm.
that how could his sons have voted for Trump after the way that they've been raised and, all
their entitlement,
all the privilege that he has been able to afford them. He worked 2 jobs to pay for their tuition so they didn't have to take out any student loans, all the things, blah, blah, blah. He's sitting there, talking about all the stuff.
Took it like a personal affront.
Personal.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, as I was listening to it, I don't know about Julie, but as I was listening to this guy, all right, sorry, let me step back for a second, because he made the decision to kind of teach them a lesson, mm-hmm. or, let them experience some of what they're going to be living, I guess is how he put it, over the next 4 years with, mm-hmm. with Trump being president, because the reasons for voting for him seemed more so to do with the economy and economic things, right? Yeah. So he decided to cut them off financially. He's having them pay for rent and paying for their, I suppose, maybe their cars, whatever, their phone bills, their insurance, whatever they had.
So they hadn't been paying for this stuff.
Obviously, they hadn't been paying for this stuff. So he decided, well, they can buck up now. And, mm-hmm. If they're excited about the economy under Trump and everything else, they're going to be able to live some of these things and experience some of the benefits that they're supposedly going to be getting, right? And the mom thought he was being a little too harsh. Some of the, it was pretty divided. Friends, some of them thought, yay, great. This is great what you're doing, really teaching him a lesson. Some of them were like, pretty divided. But, for me personally, okay, great. You didn't want them to vote for Trump. You thought that you raised them in a way that it would be a no-brainer that they would vote the same as you. But I had to question, if he did such a great job, and thinking that there was no doubt, why would he have asked them in the first place who they voted for, right?
I'm wondering if he was just like, it was like just maybe a point of conversation, because he thought he knew the answer.
It's obviously a hot spot here.
Oh my God.
Right? If you watch this video, obviously a hot spot. So I don't know. He did talk about how it was, part of dinner conversations prior. Mm-hmm. So it could have been, but I would think too, though, that, this would have come up prior to this moment, prior to the election. Well, who are you voting for? And maybe the kids told him what he wanted to hear.
Exactly.
I don't know, but he obviously didn't know. So post-election, well, who'd you vote for? And,
so he's being punitive now.
Yeah, punitive after the fact.
Yep. And he's just like, I
just don't think that's a good way to parent.
So that's really the question, that we wanted to pose to the audience. I would love to get people's feedback on this, because it is bearing to some degree, like you were saying. Do you think this guy was in the right for how he chose to, quote, teach his kids a lesson? Or do you feel like these kids were so entitled that maybe they needed to be taught a lesson, you know, based on the things that he has been shared? What I have a hard time with is the fact that he has a very strong opinion about the way things are. And if you don't agree with him, then he's going to punish you. I mean, that's really what it kind of boiled down to. And, you know, we had talked before about this because, you know, the election, well, politics in general has been so divisive over the last several years.
Yeah.
But this last election obviously was a unique thing, just the way everything kind of unfolded. And I mentioned to you before, it's like that, you know, my oldest, Andrew, has moved from Seattle. He used to be very progressive in his thought process. And as he's gotten a little bit older, he's really focusing, I think, more on the financial aspects of things and not the quality of the individual, which kind of I shouldn't say kind of bothers me. It really bothers me. But he's a grown man. And we have had very good conversations about some of these things. And we 100% do not agree with each other.
You agree to disagree.
We have to agree to disagree. And the funny thing is his fiance, she doesn't agree with him either.
Yeah.
And so she's just like done. She doesn't want to talk about it anymore because he likes to throw out little things and kind of start, you know, creating little stirs here and there. But if I were behaving how that father is behaving, we've got a wedding coming up here. Let's use that as an example. I could say, you know, screw you. You guys are going to behave that way and vote that way. You know, I'm not going to be contributing to your wedding. I'm not going to help you at all. I mean, how awful would that be?
Yeah.
And because they're not like basically like he's not being my clone.
Right.
You know, thinking the way that I do, that I am going to treat him that way or treat him differently.
Yeah.
And I just think that's wrong.
Well, that's what we do as parents.
But you raise your kids to be individual, independent thinkers. Exactly. That's what you want to do.
That's what you should want to be doing. Absolutely. So that they are, you know, prepared and can feel good about and feel passionate about their own causes and things that, you know, they want to believe in and pursue.
The issue with these, I think, is that they were really voting with their pocketbook. And I don't know how educated they were on the different topics that were there. I don't know the answer to that, but the responses they gave all related to things that had to do with money. So the economy and stuff like that. But regardless, they didn't agree. Yeah. And so audience, what do you think? Do you feel like this man acted inappropriately? If you were a parent and you had that circumstance, what would you do? Yeah. And I think I know what I would do because we kind of talked about that a little bit. You have a child. He's not a child. He's a grown ass man, but he's just finished up with college. You've got a similar situation going on, but what if Isaac had voted for Trump? Would you be kicking him out? I mean, come on.
Here's the thing. And I was telling you this earlier. I didn't even ask Isaac who he voted for. Right. I know he voted, but I didn't ask him who he voted for. Well, it's really none of my business. If
it's a topic of conversation, then, and there's nothing that, I mean, some people are very private about that sort of thing. I don't really know why, but they are. My dad was like that. He would not speak about anything. He said it was nobody's business but his own, which I think, you know, how you view politics is kind of how you model a lot of your life. People are probably going to know what your thought process is on financial circumstances or on social issues. I would think, you know, it's like but
I kind of don't think so.
Well, with my dad, I didn't know. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I say that, but it's like, if you're not really talking about it, it's kind of how you live your life. Right. Yeah. But we never had conversations about anything political. I just know that was something that he just would never, ever talk about. Yeah. But I know not growing up, but living, you know, for many years with someone who was definite Republican, I just kind of kept my mouth shut. Yeah. Because there was no point in having a conversation about something that we were just never going to agree on. Right. And frankly, I think he was much more educated on some of the topics than I was at the time. Yeah. So, and now I feel like I could have a very, very in-depth conversation about a lot of these things, whereas before, a lot of it was just how I felt about stuff. Yeah. You know, so anyway, that was the thing that we were talking about today, just going, damn, you know, it's like we have kids that are around those ages. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there that have kids that are coming up on those ages, coming up on the voting ages. And it's not even just about voting. I think it's more about parenting.
Parenting in general. And there's a lot of different scenarios that could go the same outside of politics.
Sure.
And, I don't know that there's just questions that I think, don't ask your adult children because you hope that you raise them to make responsible decisions and choices. And there's things, there are some things in my mind that at times I'm like, I wonder if, or I wonder about. And
you don't feel like you could ask them?
But it depends.
Right.
This is very general and I'm not thinking of anything specific. I think if there was something that I wanted to ask them, I would, but I think there are those things that, are just, once they're adults, there's things that are meant to be their business that are none of my business.
So when you say adults, do you mean like over 18?
Oh, I just mean like...
Do you mean like living on their own?
Yes. Adults out in the world. They're working, they're providing for themselves, they're doing their own thing.
So what if they live with you still?
Well, I don't think that there are certain things that, just because they're living with me doesn't mean they're not an adult. They might not be 100% adult in the fact that they're providing everything for themselves and out in the world, or they wouldn't be living with me. Right.
I was just thinking about how I come across sounding so open-minded and stuff. Right. But as you were saying that, I was like, what if I had a kid who was like a nationalist and had a swastika hanging on his room wall?
Yeah.
Would I be okay with that? Hell no, I would not be okay with that.
Right.
So where is the line drawn?
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe this father is looking at it that way. Maybe that's
Could
how
be.
he takes it. I'm trying to see it from different perspectives because I sure as hell would not be okay with, nor would I allow that scenario that I gave you in my home. It's like, if you want to hang your swastika flag or your whatever flag that, demonstrates what it is that you're into, you could do it in your own place. You're not doing it here.
Right.
But that's because it's my house.
Right.
I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying you can't do it here.
Right.
So if you want to do it, you live on your own.
And those are some of the hard, swastika, that's
that was
an
pretty
extreme
severe
situation. But, definitely that's some of the hard stuff as a parent, as your children gets older. I see things on social media that are like, people think that now that your kids are grown, everything's so much easier. It's not.
No.
It's much harder because you aren't as involved in their decision making. They don't come to you when they're crying, or when they're hurt. Obviously, I don't mean, they're literally crying, but you know what I'm saying? And so it's much harder to navigate.
Well, let me give you another scenario. This is a real scenario a friend of mine who has a daughter who's really into dancing.
Burlesque.
I have this friend whose daughter has been dancing, doing go-go dancing, stuff like that, and now has progressed into burlesque dancing. And it's very risque. She's darling. The little girl, the young lady is darling, but she has now invited her mom to come watch her. But she didn't invite her dad. She invited her mom, and her mom's just like, she's seen burlesque shows before. I mean, we've seen the posts on social media. It's literally pasties over your nipples and a G-string, and that's what you end up with. Now, I was having a conversation with this mom about this kind of stuff, and she's just like, how did this even happen? That she felt like this was something that was okay. Like, she's not, in the mom's mind, she's saying, she's disrespecting her body. She's not showing self-respect. These are the things that the mom is saying. But I'm talking with the mom, and it's like, if my daughter was doing that, I would have a huge issue with that, because I would want my daughter to not be looked at that way. I mean, you see other women that are that way. I don't really think about it, but is it okay for her daughter to have that lifestyle and do the things that she's doing and have the parents not have a say in it? She's 26 years old, 27 years old. So the answer to that is yes. I think she's allowed to do all those things that she wants to do. But these are parents that say, we've raised our kids to really have some respect for themselves and things like that. And I'm looking at it like, agree, but also we're talking about two different generations, and what one generation thinks is acceptable, another generation may not think is acceptable. You know, what's happening with 20-year-olds might be different than what's happening, obviously, with people our own age. We're not going to go, I'm not interested in that kind of stuff, nor do I feel bad if I see girls that are kind of putting themselves out there and it's like, maybe that's all they have to offer, or that in their mind, that's what they think that's all they have to offer, which makes me kind of sad. But we were talking about I said, well, let me ask you this. It's like the Usher concert, there were these girls that were twerking, and they were out, 30,000 people or whatever. They're on a stripper pole, and they have the splits. They're doing the splits and twerking. I mean, it was like, honestly, these girls, they're very talented that they could even do something like that,
with
right?
Those heels and everything else. Yeah.
Oh my God. And twerking. I'm just kind of like, oh my God, we got some serious booty slapping going on here on these poles. I mean, these girls are strong. They obviously are in good shape, that kind of thing. But I said to her, it's like, if that was we were talking about it because she was at the same show. And I was like, so if that was your daughter, you're saying, wow, can you believe how strong those girls are, how they could do this kind of thing? We're watching all this. This is someone else's daughter, right? How would you feel about it if your daughter did that? She goes, oh, hell no. I would not feel good about that. So you see how the standard kind of switches. It's like, and then you have to look at, okay, you do the very best you can do in what you view to be the very best, teaching them, giving them the guidance, giving them parameters, helping them learn about self-respect, whatever the case may be. And then they go off and make decisions to do things differently. Is it a reflection on you as a parent? What are your thoughts?
You feel like it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%.
What your children do. Yes, you feel like it's a reflection. And when it is not the reflection that you would like for it to be, it's very challenging. It's very challenging.
Well, she wasn't quite sure, how to respond, because she doesn't want to create a rift, but she understands her boundaries. And I said, you know what? It's like, just like she's telling you she has boundaries around what she's telling you she will do or not do. You have your own boundaries. And I think you need to just say, listen, I adore you. I love you. You'll always be my daughter. But it's like, I have boundaries. I cannot watch this. Yeah. This is not something that I'm comfortable with. Having people see you this way, I love you and always will be here for you, but this is not something that I wish to be a part of. And the response was something like, understood. I understand your boundaries. That was it. The dad, again, the dad was not involved, so that makes me kind of go, she obviously knows that it's probably not something that they're going to be really good with.
Right.
And her parents have, they have supported her in everything ever since she's a little girl that I can remember. So yeah, I think she's going through a stage probably where, she's darling and she's shaking her booty and probably making money doing it or whatever, and doesn't really see the issue with it. But I see the issue from a parent's perspective and how sad I would feel inside if I saw my daughter doing that.
Right.
So anyway, just something to think about, because what it boils down to is you don't have any control. Yeah. The only thing you can do is control how you respond to something. And the response that our friend gave to her daughter was a very unconditional response, in my opinion. Yeah. Because she's saying, I love you. I don't agree with this. I'm not comfortable with this. But she's not saying you absolutely 100% can't do it. You're being disrespectful to yourself. You're acting like, she didn't say any of those things, right? I think that if that ends up coming full circle, then that girl is going to grow up and realize that her mom was probably right.
There are those things. Yeah. Because I mean, we all experience that, we get to be our age that we're at now. And, you think back and there's a lot of things that we experience because out of curiosity. There's a lot of things that we do that we think are great and it really wasn't. And therein lies that journey that makes us who we are. Yeah. All along the way and then some.
So as parents now, we're kind of like, it's kind of like you almost to some degree bless and release it, because they're going to come back when they need help. But the difference is you providing that guidance without their request now versus them coming to you and asking you for your opinion on something.
It's a delicate balance. That's for sure.
It really is. Because I mean, the relationships with your kids is really, you know, in my opinion, pretty important. So
yeah.
Anyway. Okay. Well, there you go. Is the dad an asshole?
He wanted to know. That was his question.
Yeah. He was like, am I an asshole? I thought he was on the Two Hot Takes podcast. It's probably going to be on Reddit because that's where they pull their stuff from. And it's like, it's a great question.
Yeah.
And I kind of think he was.
Yeah. So just the way he just seems so arrogant.
Yes.
And not disappointed. It was more arrogance than disappointment. I think
smug.
I think that's part of what rubbed me the wrong way. So, yeah.
And we could always put it out there. So we'll probably put it out there on our socials when this posts so you guys can see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But anyway, until that happens,
then
you're just going to have to wait.
Go with the flow, people.
Michelle, get off that stripper pole, please.
Yeah. Get down off the pole.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next week.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.